There are only two kinds of men in this world. One is invisible, forgotten before his name even leaves her lips. The other, he's the ghost in her mind, the man she can't shake, the man she stalks at 3 a.m., scrolling through his photos, terrified he'll find someone better. Now tell me, who are you? Are you the man who gives everything while she barely notices? The man waiting days for a reply that should take seconds? The man begging for her attention while she's already planning her escape? How many times have you felt her slipping away but did nothing? How many times did you stay, hoping she'd magically come back? Be honest. Aren't you tired of being the guy she forgets? The placeholder? The man who's always good enough for now, but never the one she fears losing? Here's the brutal truth. If you don't make a choice, she already has. She decided months ago, long before you saw the signs. And while you're still clinging to hope, she's already halfway out the door. That's the trap most men live in. Stuck, waiting, invisible. But it doesn't have to be you. Not anymore. Because today, I'm going to show you exactly how to become the man women obsess over. The man who sets the rules. The man she'll fight to keep. You know, the moment I realized most men are trapped, it wasn't in a seminar. It wasn't while reading some psychology book. It was sitting in a coffee shop, watching a scene play out like a movie I've already seen 1,000 times. There was this guy, maybe 28, maybe 30. Sharp haircut, clean clothes, nice watch. He looked like the kind of man who should have his life together. And across from him sat a stunning woman, the kind that turns heads when she walks in. But here's the problem. She wasn't really there. Not with him. Not in the way that matters. Her eyes were glued to her phone. He leaned in, trying to start a conversation. She leaned back, scrolling like he was invisible. Every time he asked something, she gave him one-word answers. No spark, no interest, no effort. He was pouring his time, his attention, his energy into her, and she was giving him nothing. Do you know what I saw? I didn't just see a date going badly. I saw a man who refused to face reality. I saw someone who was already rejected months ago, but he hadn't accepted it yet. That's the part most men never understand. The decision isn't made at the table, it's made long before. By the time you notice her pulling back, it's already over. She decided weeks ago, maybe months ago, that you weren't the one. And you're still showing up, still convincing yourself that if you just try harder, she'll change her mind. But let me tell you something harsh. She won't. She already moved on. You're just the last one to find out. I sat there thinking, this man is about to waste another 6 months of his life. 6 months pretending. 6 months chasing someone who's already gone. 6 months trying to breathe life into something that's been dead for a long time. And when it finally ends, he'll be devastated. Not because she left, but because he refused to leave first. That's the difference between men who succeed and men who fail. One walks away, the other clings. And here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. The gap between those two men is growing wider every single year. On one side, you have the man with options, the man women compete for, the man who chooses his relationships on his terms. On the other side, you have the man begging for scraps, grateful for the smallest piece of attention, wondering why he keeps getting dumped, wondering what's wrong with him. Soon, there will be no middle ground. You're either the man who wins, or you're the man nobody remembers. Most of you think the difference is looks, or money, or status, but it isn't. It's one thing, one quality that separates the man women chase from the man they forget. And that's the ability to make fast, decisive choices. That's it. That's the secret. Not charm, not height, not a perfect jawline. Decisions. Quick ones. The kind that other men hesitate on for months. The kind that end bad situations before they can poison your life. Think about it. By the time you hit 35, the average guy has maybe 5 relationships, a handful of hookups, a few short situations that never really went anywhere. And he convinces himself this is normal. But it's not. While he's had 5 breakups where he got left behind, another man has had 50 experiences where he did the leaving. While one man has been learning how to get hurt, the other has been learning how to be irreplaceable. That's the difference. One repeats the same pain over and over. The other stacks experience until he becomes unstoppable. But why do so many men end up in the first group? It starts young. It starts when you're invisible in school, watching the same 5 guys get all the attention. It starts when you learn that if you want something and don't get it, it hurts. So, you stop wanting. You stop trying. You hide your desires. You bury them. And eventually, you become passive. You don't take action. You wait. You wait for approval. You wait for attention. You wait for something to change. You wait like a plant in the desert waiting for rain. And that's exactly why women never fear losing you. I want you to think back to your last relationship, the one that ended with her leaving. Be honest. When did you first notice she was pulling away? When did the fight start? When did the spark die? I'll tell you when. 6 months before the breakup. 180 days where you felt the distance, saw the signs, and did nothing. 180 days where you stayed, hoping she'd fix it, praying she'd come back, ignoring your gut that told you she was already gone. And in those 6 months, you weren't just losing her. You were losing yourself. Here's the crazy part. If you had walked away the moment you felt her slipping, everything would be different. Maybe she would have chased you. Maybe she wouldn't. But either way, you would have saved yourself 6 months of pain, 6 months of wasted effort, 6 months of shrinking self-worth, 6 months of missed opportunities with women who might have actually valued you. Do you see it now? It's not about her. It's about the decisions you refuse to make. Imagine this in 2 columns. Column 1 is the average man. He notices problems. He feels her slipping. He senses the disrespect. But he does nothing. He waits. He hopes. He endures. For 6 months, he lives in relationship purgatory. Meanwhile, if he had been single, even in a small city, he could have been talking to 5 new women a day. That's 35 a week, over 100 a month, 600 opportunities in 6 months. But instead, he wasted all 600 clinging to someone who had already checked out. Now picture column 2. This man feels the disinterest once, and he's gone. No discussion, no begging, no, let's fix this. Just gone. And during those same 6 months, he's building momentum. He's having those 600 conversations. He's stacking experience. He's sharpening his skills. By the time the first man finally gets dumped, this man has already forgotten her name. That's the difference. That's why one man becomes magnetic and the other fades into the background. But it gets worse for the man in column 1, because when she finally leaves, he's destroyed. His confidence is shattered. His identity is broken. And now he needs another 6 months just to heal, just to rebuild, enough to even think about dating again. That's a full year wasted on one dead relationship. Meanwhile, the man in column 2 never wasted a single day. He left before the damage could spread. He left with his confidence intact. And while one man grows weaker, the other grows stronger. That's the brutal truth. Most men think inaction is safe. They tell themselves, if I don't rock the boat, maybe things will get better. But that's a lie. It's like ignoring a cavity because you're scared of the dentist. You know it's getting worse. You know it's spreading. And eventually, the pain will be unbearable. What could have been fixed with a small filling becomes a root canal. And in relationships, what could have been a clean break becomes the destruction of your entire sense of self. Every day you stay with someone who doesn't value you, you're training yourself to believe that's all you deserve. You're teaching yourself to settle for scraps. You're programming yourself to shrink a little more each day. That's why you become invisible. That's why you're not the man she fears losing. Because deep down, you don't even fear losing yourself. Before we go deeper, make sure you hit subscribe right now, because what you're about to hear could shift your entire perspective on women, relationships, and your whole self. Don't just watch, lock in. Stay with me, and let's turn you into the man she can't afford to lose. Last year, I worked with a man who seemed unstoppable. He was a self-made entrepreneur, built his company from scratch. In business, he was ruthless. He made million-dollar calls without hesitation. He fired underperformers without blinking. He cut bad deals the second he smelled weakness. But when it came to women, he was a completely different man. His girlfriend would disappear for days. She'd come back with excuses that wouldn't fool a child, and he just accepted it. He tolerated behavior he'd never allow in his company. One day I asked him, if an employee treated your time like this, what would you do? He didn't even hesitate. I'd fire them immediately. So I asked, then why is your romantic life worth less than your business? He had no answer. That silence said everything. That's the disease. Men who are kings in every area except their relationships. Here's the truth. Quick decisions are a muscle. At first, it feels hard. It feels unnatural. But once you train it, it becomes automatic. And once it's automatic, your life changes at a speed you can't imagine. Because while other men spend years trapped in the same cycle, you rack up hundreds of experiences. You learn faster. You grow stronger. You evolve in ways they never will. Think of it like driving. The more you drive, the better you get. Or the gym. The more you train, the stronger you become. But with relationships, most men never improve. They repeat the same mistakes again and again. They meet a woman. They pedestalize her. They give up their power to keep her happy. She loses interest. She leaves. They spend months healing. Then they repeat the whole thing with someone new. That isn't growth. That's trauma on repeat. But when you become decisive, the cycle breaks. Every interaction teaches you something. Every date sharpens your awareness. Every relationship, no matter how short, adds to your understanding. You're not living the same failure 5 times. You're living 100 unique lessons that stack into power. That's why decisive men become magnetic. They've seen more, learned more, and walked away more. They know their value, and women can feel it. But here's the part nobody tells you. Society will hate you for this. People will label you selfish, a player, a commitment phobe. Your friends will say you're too picky. Women you reject will call you damaged. Everyone will have an opinion about why you should lower your standards, why you should give people chances, why you should work on things. But the truth is that they don't want you strong. They want you weak, like them. They want you to stay trapped. Because when you demand better, you make them question why they never did. I remember another friend, smart, successful, making great money. He met a woman who was stunning, but full of red flags. She had a wild party past. She craved male attention. She had just friends hanging around all the time. I told him straight, "Run." He laughed it off, said I was being judgmental. Fast forward 3 years, she cheated with his business partner. He lost her and half his company in one move. When he came to me, broke and broken, all he could say was, "You were right." Of course I was. The signs were there from day one. But he refused to make the decision. Society told him to give her a chance. That chance cost him everything. That's why quick decisions matter. They don't just save you from heartbreak. They save your time, your energy, your future. Every time you walk away from a bad situation, you're not losing. You're investing in yourself. And every time you hesitate, every time you make excuses, every time you stay where you know you shouldn't, you're programming yourself to accept mediocrity. Think about the men you know who are stuck, the ones who live in relationships where they're disrespected daily. Their girlfriend flirts with other guys. She uses them as an ATM, or worse, an emotional trash can. And they know it's wrong. They feel it in their gut. But they stay. Why? Because that's what society tells them to do. Relationships take work. Nobody's perfect. But the truth is, they're dying inside. Slowly. Quietly. And here's the irony. They tell themselves at least they're not alone. But being with the wrong person is lonelier than being single. Because when you're single, you have hope. When you're trapped with the wrong person, you have neither hope nor love. You're just existing in emotional purgatory. Too scared to leave. Too miserable to stay. But when you train that muscle of quick decision-making, everything changes. You become magnetic. You radiate power without even trying. Women sense it the second they meet you. They can feel you're not desperate. They can feel you have options. They can feel you won't tolerate disrespect. And suddenly, they treat you differently. The woman who once would have taken you for granted now goes out of her way to please you. The woman who once would have made you wait now pursues you. The woman who once would have left you now fears losing you. I've seen it happen over and over. A man comes to me shattered, crying about his ex who treated him like garbage. 6 months later, after learning to be decisive, he has multiple women fighting for his time. A year later, that same ex is sliding into his DMs, begging for another chance. And by then, he can't even remember why he wanted her. Because that's the truth about quick decisions. They compound. Every choice you make builds momentum. Every time you refuse disrespect, you build self-respect. Every time you walk away, you raise your value. And while most men decay slowly, the decisive man grows exponentially stronger. That's the power. That's the difference. That's why she fears losing him. Let me give you a real-world example. You match with a girl online. You talk for a bit. It feels like there's some potential, so you suggest meeting for coffee. And what does she say? "I'm busy this week, maybe next week." Old. You would have smiled at your screen, thinking you still had a chance. You'd wait. You'd keep texting. You'd waste 2 weeks of your life chasing someone who already showed you where you stand. But the man who's decisive, he doesn't play that game. The moment she says, "maybe next week," he's out. Unmatch. Delete. Move on. Because here's the truth. If she's not excited to meet you now, she never will be. And while the old version of you is stuck waiting, the new version of you has already gone on 5 dates. He's already met women who cleared their schedules to see him. He's already living. That's the difference. That's the power of decisions. This is what most men never understand. It's not about being reckless. It's not about cutting people off for no reason. It's about recognizing patterns. A woman takes 24 hours to reply to your text. Decision made. She's not interested enough. She cancels plans last minute. Decision made. She doesn't respect your time. She keeps bringing up her ex. Decision made. She's not over him. No long debates, no excuses. No, maybe she'll change. Just decisions and action. But here's the excuse I hear all the time. What if I'm wrong? What if she really was busy? What if I'm throwing away something good? Listen carefully. You're not throwing away anything good. Good relationships don't start with excuses. They don't require you to lower your standards. They don't make you question your worth. And even if you are wrong, so what? There are billions of women on this planet. You think this one girl who can't even send a timely reply is your soulmate? You think the one who makes you feel small is your only chance at love? That's not love. That's scarcity. And it's killing your attraction. The man who makes quick decisions doesn't live in scarcity. He lives in abundance. He knows his time is valuable. He knows his attention is rare. He knows his energy is a gift, not a given. And women can sense this from across the room. You want to know a secret that most men never realize? Women want you to have standards. They want you to be selective. They want to feel like they earned your attention. They don't respect desperation. They crave the validation of being chosen by a man who could have chosen anyone. I'll never forget a woman I dated years ago. She was gorgeous, successful, used to men bending over backward just to get her time. On our first date, she showed up 20 minutes late. No apology, no explanation. Just walked in like I'd be waiting no matter what. But I wasn't. After 10 minutes, I left. She called me furious. "Where are you?" I told her calmly. "I don't wait more than 10 minutes for anyone. If you can't respect my time, we're not compatible." And she was stunned. Nobody had ever done that to her before. And guess what happened? She apologized. She begged for another chance. And on the next date, she showed up 15 minutes early. Why? Because I demonstrated value. Not through words, through action. That's the point. Quick decisions aren't just about cutting people off. They're about establishing your worth from the very beginning. They're about setting the frame that you are the prize, not her. They're about creating the dynamic where she's chasing you instead of the other way around. But here's the bitter pill. You probably won't do this. You'll nod along. You'll feel fired up for a few minutes. Then you'll slip right back into your old patterns. You'll keep waiting for her text. You'll keep making excuses for her disrespect. You'll keep lying to yourself because change feels scary. And you'd rather suffer familiar pain than face the unknown. That's why so many men stay stuck. That's why they repeat the same heartbreak over and over. I see it all the time. Men come to me after their 5th breakup, their 2nd divorce, their 100th rejection. And they're desperate for the magic trick. They want the hack. They want the one weird line that makes everything easier. But when I tell them the truth, that the secret is simply making fast, clear decisions, they look disappointed. That's it? Yes, that's it. But it's also everything. Because it requires rewiring your brain. It requires unlearning everything society taught you. It requires being willing to stand alone rather than tolerate disrespect. And here's what happens when you finally embrace it. Every decision makes the next one easier. Every time you walk away from a situation that doesn't serve you, you build muscle. Every time you choose yourself, your value rises. It's not linear. It's exponential. That's why one man decays into invisibility, while another man becomes magnetic. That's why one gets forgotten, and the other is the man she fears losing. Let me give you two visions of your future, two paths, two lives, and only one choice. Picture the first. You ignore everything I've said. You stay the same. You keep waiting for women to choose you. You keep tolerating disrespect because it's easier than walking away. You keep hoping things will magically fix themselves. And 5 years from now, you've had maybe 2 more relationships. Both ended the same way. Both ended with her leaving. You're older. You're more bitter. Your standards have dropped so low you barely recognize yourself. You settle for someone you're not even attracted to because at least she doesn't reject you outright. You scroll through social media, seeing men with loving, beautiful partners, and you ask yourself, what do they have that I don't? And instead of facing the truth, you blame your genetics. You blame money. You blame luck. You blame everything except the one thing that matters, your inability to decide. Now picture the second. You start today. You make one decision. The decision to never accept less than respect. To never stay where you're unwanted. To never waste your time on maybe. The first year, it's tough. You're alone more often. You get rejected more because you're finally putting yourself out there. But you grow. You learn. You toughen up. By year 2, you feel the shift. Women sense your confidence. They sense your options. They sense you won't tolerate disrespect. By year 3, you have more opportunities than you can handle. By year 4, you meet a woman who's exceptional. She treats you like a king, not because you demanded it with words, but because she knows you'll walk if she doesn't. By year 5, you're living a life the old version of you could never imagine. And it all started with one thing: decisions. Do you see the difference? In one future, you're invisible. In the other, you're unforgettable. In one, you're clinging. In the other, you're leading. In one, you're begging for attention. In the other, she's terrified of losing yours. The gap is massive, and the only thing standing between the two futures is your willingness to act. But here's what most men don't understand. Not making a choice is still a choice. Every day you hesitate, you're choosing weakness. Every moment you stay in a dead relationship, you're choosing mediocrity. Every second you ignore the signs, you're choosing pain. And every excuse you whisper to yourself is another chain keeping you stuck exactly where you are. That's why some men have women fighting for them, while others can't even get a reply. It's not money. It's not looks. It's not status. It's because years ago, they made the decision never to settle. They built a muscle most men never touch. And while you were making excuses, they were making moves. Listen, I know my words cut deep. I know they sting. But maybe that's exactly what you need. Maybe you need someone to grab you by the shoulders and shake you awake. Because right now, you are sleepwalking through your love life. You're grateful for crumbs. You're begging for scraps. You're wasting years waiting for women who don't even want you. And if no one tells you the truth, you'll wake up at 50, alone, broken, wondering where your life went. The man women fear losing isn't special. He's not born lucky. He's not blessed with something you can't have. He just made a choice. He chose himself. He chose standards. He chose quick decisions over slow destruction. And because of that, he never has to beg. He never has to cling. He never has to fear being left. Because when you are willing to leave, nobody wants to let you go. That's the paradox. That's the secret. That's the truth society doesn't want you to know. The second you stop needing them, they start needing you. The moment you're willing to walk away, they'll do anything to make you stay. The instant you become decisive, you become unforgettable. That's the shift. That's the transformation. That's when you become the man women fear losing. So here's my challenge. The next time you feel disrespected, dismissed, or devalued, don't explain, don't argue, don't bet. Walk. Delete her number. Block her socials. Move on with your life. Because every second you waste with someone who doesn't value you is a second stolen from someone who would. And every day you hesitate is another day you'll never get back. Now you know the truth. You've heard the secret. The only question left is this: what are you going to do about it? If this message woke something up inside you, don't let it fade. Hit subscribe right now so you don't miss the next truth that could change your life. Drop a comment below. Tell me the one decision you know you should have made sooner. Your story might be the spark another man needs. And if you know a brother stuck in the same cycle, share this video with him. Don't keep it to yourself. Most men will watch and do nothing. Don't be most men. Be the one who acts. Subscribe, comment, share. Start today.